What is up, Feeding Frenzies? I decided now is the time that I will bring you guys a deck profile for one of my other favorite card games, Elder Scrolls Legends. What I typically run on Elder Scrolls Legends is a control mage oriented deck, which typically is focused on board control, removal, and late game pressure. A lot of the time we're going to struggle in the early to mid game, but while struggling, we're still going to manage. And what we're going to manage to do is we're going to manage to hold off any form of threat that comes towards us, whether it's a struggle to hold off that threat or not, we are going to do it. So what we're running here is execute for early game removal. This is going to deal with pretty much anything they throw at us in the early game, as decks usually drop a 1 or a 2 drop, or 1 or 2 power card. Firebolt, same thing, early game removal. High Rock Summoner, this is a big thing our deck is focused on. Atranax are going to be huge in this deck. It's a lot of pressure towards the enemy. It's a lot of sort of that they won't have any idea what's going to be thrown at them because it's all random Atranax that you can get. Shrieking Harpy, good for holding off early game. Drop it, you shackle one of them. They can't attack you for a turn. Wardcrafter gives a creature ward. Ward means that if you hit the creature, it'll deal no damage, but it'll break the ward. This is a very, very good card. Very good to use on a lot of the cards in this deck. You don't really want to use it early game though. You want to wait until much later in the match, even though it is a 2-drop. We have Cunning Ally. Put a Firebolt into your hand if the top card of your deck is blue. So we have 34 blue in the deck and 16 yellow. We are most likely going to wind up getting that in our hands. We have Daggerfall Mage. Ward. When Daggerfall Mage's ward is broken, put a Tomb of Alteration in your hand. Tomb of Alteration, +2/+2, summon, draw a card. This is one card that Wardcrafter is very useful on. Giving that ward back to the Daggerfall Mage so that you can break it again and draw another card. Really tremendous, really, really useful, really powerful. Dark Rebirth. This is another very, very, very strong card in the deck. This is very useful. This is going to be used on a crazy amount of cards in this deck as well. You want to use it very sparingly. You do only have 3 of them. So you want to find what you can use this on, what's going to be useful. Me, I like to use it on things like this. Summon. Deal the top card of your opponent's deck and replace it with a counterfeit trinket. Now, if you use Dark Rebirth on this, you are going to steal the top 2 of their deck. You are not going to steal one, and then when you go to steal the next, it's going to be Counterfeit Trinket again. No, you're going to steal the top 2 cards, and they're going to draw 2 Counterfeit Trinkets. Hive Defender is just, your standard guard card. It's just there for putting pressure down, for defending yourself, sort of stalling out the game until you can get to your mid to late game pressure. Lightning Bolt, Prophecy, deal 4 damage. If you don't know what Prophecy is, when you have a rune that breaks, if you manage to draw this, you will cast it for free. Very strong card. Just in general, 4 cost, deal 4 damage, usually good for removal. Not a lot of cards in the game have like heavy amounts of health. Tomb of Alteration. 4-drop, +2/+2. Summon, draw a card. Very, very strong card. 4-drop, +2/+2. You want to throw this on pretty much anything you can. Throw it on Lydia, throw it on Hive Defender. You could throw it on your Karthspire, just anything that's going to be able to maintain heavy board presence, and then of course it gives you the draw effect. Then we have Karthspire Scourge. Give all enemy creatures in this lane -1, -0. I like to use this. I like to use this mostly late game. You don't want to just slam it down for if they have 1 card on board, it can be useful that way. Say if you're against something like a lethal card on board and they're threatening something powerful you have, you could throw that down, then you could maybe Dark Rebirth, and maybe that would get rid of the lethal effect on it. Because lethal, just any amount of damage, it can be 1 damage versus your 35 health card. Your 35 health card's still going to die, and that sucks. That's really, really bad. Lydia, unique card, so you can only have one of her in the deck. She guards both lanes. Throwing Tomb on her, and then throwing Wardcrafter on her, like, near the very end of a match, very, very powerful. They're going to have to blow pretty much everything unless if they have something that can forcefully remove this. Now, I haven't checked into the new expansion cards. I'm returning with this new Alliance War expansion, but I don't know if there are any cards in the game that prevent spells from being casted on a minion. But if there are, I highly recommend trying to swap out something in this deck to add in one of those cards to prevent Lydia from being attacked. I believe in something like Magic the Gathering, they're going to call that hexproof. You can't cast spells on it. Piercing Javelin, just a flat out removal card, just destroy a creature. Prophecy, you know, this is another one of my favorites. They think that they're going to end the game, they hit you for a heavy chunk, boom, your run calls out a Piercing Javelin, you destroy their strong creatures, you swing the game in your favor. Winterhold Illusionist, you know, just another creature disappears and it returns at the end of turn. Very self-explanatory. It'll, like, as you end your turn, it's going to come back in. That is very good to combo with something like this. Conjuration Scholar. Summon a 5/5 Frost Atronach with Guard. Nobody's ever going to remove your 1/2. I promise you this. If you set this 1/2 over in the right lane so that it's stealth on its first turn, nobody's going to bother with it at all. Nobody cares about your 1/2. It's a waste of them to remove it. So in a deck like mine where you're running Dark Rebirth and Winterhold, you're going to be able to probably bring out several 5/5s for essentially free, since you're not going to have to cast that 6 cost again. Conjuration Tutor. Summon 3 Lava Atronachs into your deck. This is another one that Dark Rebirth is really good for, or Winterhold is really good for, because your Lava Atronachs are 7 cost, 8/8 breakthrough with Guard and Ward. Insane card, especially against decks that don't have heavy removal, which would be your red decks, your purple decks, if I'm not mistaken, green decks, they do have lethal, but they don't have any like straightforward removal cards, as far as I remember. Then we have Ice Storm. You know, it's a very, very steep cost, but it does deal 3 damage to all creatures. So yes, you need to be careful with this, because this will remove your own creatures on board, and that is not something that you'll want most of the time. This is mostly for if you're facing like a red or a green deck which don't bring out creatures with like 5, 6, 7 health, nothing like that. They usually bring out things with like 2, 3, 4 health. This will remove most of them off the board, and it will swing in your favor. Ancano, we don't run a heavy amount of actions that are like super dependent on burst damage. Most of our actions are small amounts of damage, but either way, your actions have breakthrough, so if they have 1/1s on board, you know, and you throw down Ice Storm, that's dealing 2 damage to face for each 1/1 they have on board. So very useful. Then you have, you know, its breakthrough on its own. Summon, deal 5 damage. It's an 8 cost 5/5. Very good board clear. Sadly, it is a unique, much like Lydia, and it's not really a good thing. I don't think it used to be a unique. I think you used to be able to have 2 or 3 of these in a deck, but they changed it, and I'm really not understanding why. Endural Archmage, not something you necessarily have to run in this deck. I like to run it when I'm facing things that have a lot of board clear, or rather, not a lot of board clear, but have a lot of board presence. Aggressive decks that fill the board like a red aggro deck, you're going to want to place this down. This will pretty much offer immediate board clear. Red decks do sometimes run silences, but if it's a primarily orc-oriented deck, it's not likely to run silences. Then we have Supreme Atromancer, my favorite card in the deck. Summon a Flame Atromach in each lane. When you summon another creature, deal 2 damage to your opponent. Now, this right here is amazing. This will summon 2 5/3s with Breakthrough, and then because you summon 2 5/3s with Breakthrough, you deal 2 damage to your opponent. Now here's the crazy thing about this card. So you want to use this very late game, but you want to use this in tandem with Conjuration Tutor. You want to place down Conjuration Tutor in your right lane. People are unlikely to remove it right away. They're probably going to wait on it. Wait until the stealth is over and then just burn it down. If you have Conjuration Tutor out while you summon Supreme Atromancer, you're summoning 4 Flame Atromances Atronachs, and you're dealing 8 damage to your opponent just by summoning these creatures, because you deal 4 for the 2 Atromachs that Atromancer summons. Man, that is a lot of Atra. So many. But you're dealing 8 damage, you're summoning a total of 23 damage on board. They all have Breakthrough. It's absolutely insane, and there's not a lot that people can do against that, unless if you're facing another blue deck that has Ice Storm. That will likely be able to do it. Anyway, guys, that is the end of this deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I explained things well, and if I didn't, please let me know in the comments section what I didn't explain well or what I may have screwed up while explaining all of this. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe. Please click that bell button, because, you know, YouTube does really suck at getting these videos recommended to people. Later.